Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have with us Jomo. Jomo, introduce yourself.
Yes, Jomo Mutegi, and uh, CEO, I guess, of Black Kids Read Press. I'm also a professor of science education. I currently work at Old Dominion University in Virginia. I
Whoop,
can say
whoop.
more if you
Alma
like.
mater. That's
Oh,
where I
really?
graduated from. Yes.
Oh, congrats! I didn't know that.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay. So, I mean, you could definitely say more because Kids Read Inc. Please
Yes.
elaborate.
So I started Black Kids Read when I was trying to find ways to get my research in front of Black children. And there was a lot of resistance I found with the teachers that I teach. And so I felt that Black parents, as a father of Black boys, I know that we have an incentive to provide things for our children, whereas their teachers might not have the same incentive. And so I tried to write books or began writing these books, which represented things that Black children should know about science to help them make informed decisions as they go through life. So much of what we do in science class, you don't really use beyond science class. And our kids ask me all the time, why do we need to know this? 80% of the time, the real answer is you don't need to know this. But the things that they do need to know, we don't really give them in science classes. And that's what I was pushing my students who are teachers to do. But there was a lot of resistance. So the books actually were a vehicle for me to these ideas in front of children through through parents and families.
Yes. Okay. So it's a pressing company, like publishing company.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you are writing books and publishing them in regards to
Yes.
science.
Right. So
Okay.
all the books that I write and publish, so Black Kids Read does a couple of things. One is publishing science related books for Black children. And the second is also connecting readers with other Black authors. And so when I got started into this, it was a new space for me. I wasn't, have not been trained as a writer or a book publisher, but I've joined organizations and I've taken courses and taken part in tutorials, which helped me to know what the book publishing space is like. And in that process, I met a lot of other Black authors who are writing books for Black children. And I think I've written maybe 10 children's books. Well, your kid's going to need more than 10 books to read in life. So well, no
Indeed.
one person is going to provide all the books that children need. And that's one thing I enjoy about it. I've been able to meet others who do really good work, and we do sometimes collaborate on projects. And so when I go to shows on our website, I don't only have books that I've written, I also showcase books that have been written by others that I've met through this journey.
Nice. That's exciting. I love the name. Definitely. Because Black kids do read. I am one. I was a avid reader since the age of 4. I
Yeah,
that's was my joy. And my girls have started like picking up. I know on the way to Miami last week, they actually, got a book on their own without me asking. That is a joy in itself.
right.
Brings tears. Um, but how important is a name like that? Is an affirmation in sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how old are your girls?
7 and 10.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm with you. It's an affirmation. And it's also, you know, just straight to the point. And I don't think there's any inherent salvation in reading in and of itself,
Mm,
but it's a tool. And if we can get our children to learn to enjoy reading and engaging with the text, then they have a tool that will serve them well through life for informing
yeah.
themselves, for sharing information, for entertaining themselves. And in our house, we limit screen time. with our son. And so we often will redirect him to books. We read together as a family, and he has a love for books. I mean, and sometimes I feel bad to say it. Sometimes we got to pull him away from the books. Like,
Oh
look, man,
no.
you know, he had a book fair at the school the other day, and he wanted to go the day before his assigned day. We let him go. The day of his assigned day, we let him go. The day after his assigned day, I said, man, look, we're not buying no more books now. You read the ones you got.
Like I say, what's that bill looking like? Because I used to tell people I spend my last 15 on a book. I would definitely, especially as a teenager, like you know it's gonna come back. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's lovely.
Yeah, but so when you see they have that joy and appreciation for text, you know that that's one tool that they're going to have in a space of their life that's going to open up doors for them.
Yes.
You know, yeah,
Yes, because reading is like the I feel like the most concrete fundamental skill that you need. Like reading leads to everything else. Like you being able to
right.
see directions, you being able to see street signs, know where you're going in life is like actually literally know where you're going.
Mhm.
It's very important. You know, my 7-year-old is still on the path of like becoming a confident reader. I feel like my 10-year-old, she's there, she got it, she's reading big words and all that great stuff. But my 7-year-old is still a work in progress. But I always just stress the fact that girl, you don't want to have to depend on anybody. Like, when I tell her, you gonna have to be by your big sister all the time and ask her to read it for you. So just know that.
Right.
But she's coming a long way, and she's one that was picking up books on her own in the car, and I was really excited to see it because that's what it's all about. Them wanting to take in more.
Absolutely.
You know, and we talk about the literacy rate all the time. And how that is a lovely national crisis across the board. Like I don't want to think it people to think that is a black kid problem or you know a kid of color problem. No, that's all kids. Like kids are not reading strongly as they. I don't even know if it was ever really a strong. You know, like I don't know if it was ever not a issue with kids being able to read on grade level, but I know it's a major issue right now.
Yeah, I will share from my experience teaching university level students. Literacy is poor across the board. Part of it is, I mean, I think of the first part is just a willingness to read, and then closely related to that is the capacity to read. And so right now, for us as African Americans, we really do have a tremendous opportunity because the larger society is eroding to the point where if we are just competent, and we don't want to only be competent, but even if we were just competent, we would shine and stand far above many of the people that we compete against. And so for our own children, if they can read at grade level throughout their university experience, they're going to stand head and shoulders above other students in the class because most of them are not reading in college. Based on my teaching of these students, most of them don't read at a college level. And that's not a good thing in and of itself, but it is an opportunity for us as parents. It's a very simple thing. If we can get our children to read, for example, I tell young people going into college for the first time, those basic things you learn in kindergarten, be respectful, say please and thank you, be on time, read at grade level. If you can do these things, you're going to stand out as the top 10% of your cohort.
Yeah, you said a lot. You know, I used to teach 12th grade, so I know the kids. I know who's coming into college. And yeah, no, they weren't reading on grade level. I had some students who could barely write complete sentences that would talk to me about going to college. So I
Right.
already know, and that's what I always ask, especially when I get a college professor. It's like, how is that looking for you guys? Like, are you reversing the rigor as far as like the expectations basically? Like, are you, is the bar being lowered basically?
Yeah, I think that's what's happening is that there's a market-driven motive, so that universities are always trying to grow, and to grow, you have to admit more students. And when you admit more students, you admit students who are not at the same level that your average student was, 20, 30 years ago. So
Yes.
that's one of the challenges. Then there's also pressures to graduate more students.
Mm,
And so these pressures are interwoven into the structure of the university. So I remember there was a period of time, not at my current institution, but where I was previously, whenever a student would get a C or lower, they would file a grievance. And
mm,
I'd have to go through an entire process with the grievance. Almost every semester, I was sitting in grievance, showing a committee why the student should not pass this class.
mm.
Most faculty not going to do that. Most faculty say, you know what, it's just easier to just let you go ahead and pass so I can go and do something else. And so these are the types of structural pressures that have lowered the bar. Um, but again, for and I, you focus on homeschooling, so that is another great opportunity where we can wrest back some of this control for ourselves and our communities. As an instructor, a professor, and someone who's committed to education, I look at my books as a vehicle for helping to push and to raise the bar for our
Yeah.
children. And so many times at the end of each of my books, there's a vocabulary, a list of
Right.
vocabulary words. And when I first started writing, and I would share drafts of books with editors and with others, one of the common responses I got was, "This vocabulary seems too hard for this age level. Will they know these
Mm,
words?" And I went through a brief period of figuring, okay, maybe I should simplify this. But I concluded that what's the point? I mean, if I give you something that you can already do, it's not stretching you and pushing you and helping you to grow. Point of the books is to help you to grow. And so
exactly.
I defaulted to putting in words that children may not know because now this book is an opportunity for you to learn and extend your vocabulary. And
Yeah.
that's just on a very basic level. The ideas presented in the books do pretty much the same thing. And so I have one book where it's a series, and it follows a little girl who is she likes chicken. Her dad says, well, let's learn about chicken. So he looks at the life cycle of chickens with his daughter, takes her to a farm, and then she gets some chicks. Chicks grow, have babies. Now they got too many big chicks. Now they got to process the chicken by the end of the fourth book. And so in the book, the community comes together to process the chickens. Well, a friend of mine, over a chicken dinner, mind you, we were sitting at dinner eating chicken wings. He said, why you got a children's book and they're killing chickens? I said, are you serious? Look at your plate, man. What do you think this comes out of the sky?
Is that chicken on your plate alive? Like, what?
So, and I have a colleague. We had a conference this past month, back in March. She took up an investigation of this concept of death and how we never deal with death as science teachers. She said it's
Mm,
almost a complete absence. Even in the life cycle, we don't talk about death as part of the life cycle. And so that's a theme that some of us would look at and say that's too heavy for children. But
but is it?
my response is it's a part of life, and if we're preparing them to live in the world, you've got to address these themes in an age appropriate way. And so
Indeed.
on many counts, the books are intended to push children and give them opportunities to grow and to develop into normal functioning adults.
Yes, and have those necessary conversations with their parents. Parents
Yes.
like to skirt around the topics that are necessary. It's like, yo, death happens. So you just want them to settle with, oh, well, Mima or grandma or mom, whatever grandma is in heaven, and we're not gonna talk about nothing else. Like, oh, she's in heaven, or she's watching over you now, or and then just going about your way. I had a senior talk to me and tell me that her parents didn't were not able to talk to her about death. Like she said that was one of the topics. Like they just go by it, like it's like it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think too, children are much more resilient than we give them credit for. And so they don't have, my son is 8. He's been on the planet for 8 years. I've been on the planet for over 50 years. So I've experienced a lot that makes it harder for me to process some information than for him. He's seen it for the first time. And children can accept matter of fact information as, okay, I guess that's
Mm.
just the way it is. Whereas adults bring, because of our experiences, much more to that. And I think we should have faith in our children that they can handle mature topics, and again in an age appropriate way.
I know, but then you think about where we're at in society and the things that are being introduced to these children so quickly and so early on, especially with their lovely cellular devices. You have to think of what is age appropriate now, like because everything, even watching cartoons with them, you see like the stuff that they talk about. It's like, oh, because it's animated, it's supposed to be age appropriate. I just think
Right,
like
right,
it even tell you like, oh, especially like you watch a Netflix thing and it'll tell you like crude language or like certain things, but it's Y7
yes,
or something. Like, but then you look at it, like, wait a minute now, that was a little hey. Like, so what is age appropriate now?
yeah, yeah,
Like I've had some tough conversations, Jomo, already. Like my girls come back with some stuff that I'm just like, yo.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So you talk about age appropriate, but when I talk to my girls about age in general, because they're always like, well, how old do you have to be to do this? Or how old you gotta have to be to do this? And I always tell them like age is that doesn't matter. It matters about your excuse me, your maturity level, the fact of you being responsible or even trustworthy in some cases in regard to something that you're asking to be able to do. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like I defied a lot of those barriers as far as, oh, you have to be 6. I started driving at 13. I was driving. My mom had faith, and I was tall too. So like by 15, she was letting me take her Camaro by myself. So totally different. And that's what has shaped me always. Like, okay, this isn't about age. Like it ain't about. It's about maturity, being able to be trusted with something,
Yeah,
and yeah, so what is age appropriate like
yeah,
now?
yeah. And that's something good. I have to say I haven't thought a lot about it in great depth. And I think as you're asking the question and giving those examples, what strikes me is a couple for me, and this may vary from parent to parent, but there's a couple of things that I use as a guideline. And one of those things is that I don't want to take away a child's innocence, and
Yes.
so I think that many times we as adults can't handle or have difficulty handling adult problems, but we then put those problems on
On
children.
the
I don't
chill.
think we should do
What?
that.
You better speak.
So for me to talk about the importance of math and being able to count money and having a good life, that I would say that's age appropriate.
Yeah.
But for me to come with my head down to my child and say, "Oh man, life is hard. I can't make these bills," that's not age appropriate.
Yeah.
What he gonna
No.
do about my bills, right? So I think
Yeah.
one strategy or one thing to think about is, does it deprive them of their innocence
Mm,
in their childhood in that sense? And then for me, my father calls me a prude, and I take that. I try to keep vulgarity to a minimum, and that's uh, inappropriate language, the kind of language I wouldn't want to hear coming from an 8-year-old. Okay.
yes.
I mean, back when we were young, it was just certain regular words we couldn't say.
Right.
We had to say fib. We couldn't even say lie.
Right.
Some young people sound like sailors. Um, so
Yes.
so so that was kind of ingrained in me as a standard. So
Yeah.
so vulgarity. So whether it's in language or in sexual ideas or themes, and it doesn't mean that you don't talk about sexuality. I think children need to know about their body and how it works and the other gender and that sort of thing. But then there's a line in which, what are they ready? Ask yourself, are they ready for this information? What are they going
Right.
to do with this information? And
Keep it.
you kind of disclose it as time goes on,
Share with their friends that
and
don't
the
know anything
circumstances
about it.
dictate as well. So I'm sorry, you were saying.
No, I said share with their friends that don't know anything about it. Go and
Well,
go and mess up
that
somebody
might
else
that might be
innocent.
a reason to share something you might not otherwise share. So if you get a sense that, okay, the friends are talking about this, I better get ahead of it so I can give it to them in a way that's more appropriate, or give them some way to think about this. Then I would say that's what we have to do as parents.
Yes. And that's basically how I've had a lot of my tough conversations, things that they picked up at the park and they come back, we get in the car and they like, oh
Mhm.
mom, what's this? Like, I'm like, what? Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Like we're going here like so quickly. But no, I get it totally. I always tell my oldest because she she really admires me, and like I try not to bash around. Like she really admires me, like my words, my actions, everything. Like I know for a fact she's always watching. I know that she's always like figuring out what she wants to do with herself through me. Even though like, I let her be her, and we are definitely very, very not similar. But there are a lot of things conversation wise that I can't wait to share with her when she gets older. But I know, like you said, as far as innocence go, I do want to preserve that. I don't want her having a view of the world, even though the world is the world, in a certain manner so quickly, you know?
Mhm.
But we've had to have the conversations talking about pedophilia, talking about
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
and those are tough conversations, but we've already had those because I don't want them to be naive to the fact
Right.
of that there being individuals like that. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
so
And to your point, being a victim of it is going to be much tougher than the conversation.
what you better
So
speak, honey.
yeah.
Yes. So that's yes, yes, yes. So, that's what it's just like, you teeter on that. What is age appropriate? But I like how you put it, like preserving their innocence, preserving their purity of like, just being in a happy place. I feel like in a place of joy
Right.
in general. I don't want to fear. I don't want to fear monger my children. I don't want them to be scared of everything or everybody or anything of that nature. So
Right.
yeah, it's a fine line, but we figured it out, aren't we? So you just have one?
No, I have two sons actually. So my
Okay.
oldest son is 27 and my youngest son is 8.
What?
Yes.
Okay. I may be like that too, so by all means. What? Oh, that is a gap for you. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So you're
Funny.
homeschooling.
No, we don't homeschool now.
Oh, okay.
Well, I will say my
You
belief is that
homeschool.
every parent is a homeschooler.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
But our son also goes to traditional school. His first 6 years we homeschool. Um, and we start him in, was it first grade? Yes, I think it was. No. We started him in preparation for first grade. Was in kindergarten for about 2 months, and then COVID hit,
Mm,
and so we pulled him out. We were back homeschooling again, um,
gotcha, gotcha.
and so then I think that next first grade was his first time in formal schooling. He's in third grade now.
How's it been for him?
It's been okay. I mean, an adjustment, but a normal adjustment. It's not been anything. Hasn't been anything too difficult or outside of the range of what's normally to be expected. And so, as parents, we have to be watchful and help them to navigate the world that they're interacting with. So, how do you navigate your peers? How do you navigate your teacher? How do you navigate situations?
Yeah.
Um, he's in third grade. He'll be in fourth grade next year. And he and I just a few days ago had a discussion about the changes that happen to Black boys when they go from third grade to fourth grade.
Hmm.
And I look at it as just an opportunity to uh, forewarn him so that he's prepared when he sees it. And I told him that I said you're going to have some situations, and I don't want you to be in the situation wondering what's going on, what's happening with me. It's not you. I want you to get in that situation. I want you to recognize it. I want you to say, okay, I see what this is. My dad told me this was going to happen. And so that's keeping the doors of communication open and it's preparing him. Psychologists identify what they call protective factors. And so protective factors are things that we instill in children that help to arm them when they come up against hostile spaces. And there's two protective factors that we can provide to our children, Black children, that will greatly help them as they move through life. One is to prepare them for racial bias. So some of us, our parents, and I have a student who tells a story. She started working and she worked in the same department that her father worked in. And she said, I got in those meetings, I'm the only black woman, and they just running buck wild in that meeting space. And I got home like, I didn't know this was gonna be like this. And she's talking with her father. She said, why didn't you tell me that this is what it was like? He said, I was hoping it'd be different when you got older. And hope is not a strategy. We cannot
Yeah.
arm our children just by hoping that stuff go away. The protective factor is to let her know, look, this is what racial bias is going to look like in the workspace. Here's how it might impact you. Here are some things that you can do to protect yourself. And even if we don't know the things you can do to protect yourself, if we give them number one and number two, here's what's
Yeah.
going to happen, here's what's going to look like, they will start thinking about, okay, if this is
Ways
going to
to
happen, what can
protect.
I do to
Yeah.
protect myself? And studies show consistently that Black children who have preparation for racial bias do much better academically and in life than Black children who don't.
Yeah.
The other is so one is preparation for racial bias, and the other is uh, being steeped in Black culture. Basically, taking them to museums, so helping them learn about Black history, take them to a Black church so they interact with Black people, so they leave, go through life knowing, okay, I'm Black.
Yeah.
And that may sound crazy to say, but a lot of Black people don't realize, don't look at themselves and say, I'm Black, I'm part of a Black community. This is what our lives look like. And those are the two things that will greatly arm our children.
See, you said a mouthful. That's a lot because like that's some of the conversations we've already started having. With mine being 10, she asks, different questions, but arming them with that knowledge of awareness. Because
Mhm.
that's basically what it is being aware of what is taking place and not understanding that it's not by fault of you,
Right.
right? And as
Absolutely.
a black male, and I say and I speak on it all the time, I could never say that I know what it feels like to be a black man in America. I can never even speak from that space, but I can always observe and take in the information that's being given from a black male's perspective. And I get to pick your brain too, because it's always a curiosity of, okay, how was being in school for you? Because I feel
Mhm.
like black male children are our most underserved children in the public school system in general. And
Yeah.
that's not research, that's just my observation from being in there for 14 plus years. So
Right.
how was your experience in public school?
So for me, I didn't go to public school.
And I
Um,
was just about to say, I'm assuming that you went to public school, but I don't even know. Yes.
I went to public school for 1 year. And my
Okay.
mother said, she said, if I didn't take you out of that school, I was going to lose my son.
Oh
And so
man.
I was in public school for first grade. And from second grade on, she had me in different private schools. And it's funny because my private school, my high school, it was so small. Very few of the students, when we were out with other kids, we never admitted what school we went to.
Oh
We would
wow.
always claim the school that was local to where we grew up. Um, and so, but by the time I got to college and looked back, I thought, man, I'm actually glad that I went to school I went to because I
Mm,
learned some basics that a lot of my peers didn't have. And my peers struggled academically because they just didn't have good preparation. And I'm not saying that applies to all public schools, but it would have applied to the school that I would have gone to. That was
mm,
my neighborhood school. Um, I would say that one of the challenges, to your earlier point about the experiences of Black boys in school, what we have right now is the majority of the teaching workforce is made up of middle class white females, about 80%. And so the whole schooling structure is structured and designed for a white female. No boy, black, white,
or
or
yeah.
Asian, or any other racial ethnic group, no boy, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, can sit in the seat for 6 hours a day and don't cause no problems. It's not normal. You got testosterone. I'm at home in my home office. I get up about every 30 minutes and walk around. and I got old testosterone. So a 10-year-old, this putting on 6 hours a day. But
Yeah,
every time he leans over to appear to talk or giggle, every time he get up to throw something away, he's punished. So
yeah,
essentially, he's punished for his biology.
right.
So then, when you add on top of that the element of race and racism, it's very difficult for Black boys. And I think that one of the main things that we need to instill in them is to don't feel bad about who you are and the way you are. And we do as a man, we do want to help teach our sons to control themselves. So my son, if we doing something, he start wiggling around. I say, look, you stand strong, soldier. We not. This is not wiggle time,
Uh,
all right? But at the same time, I'm not punishing him
yeah,
because he has the young male energy. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think it is a major challenge. And as parents, we want to be able to help them to understand that it's normal, and not be punitive with it.
yes, yes. And I feel like you spoke on this also early on. Just to, and this is why I do what I do, and I stress the fact, like you've already stated also, homeschooling isn't something you do if your children are just at home with you. It's homeschooling is should be a lifestyle for you in general, and you should
Right.
always be the leader of your children's educational journey. I speak
Absolutely.
on loss of identity, and that's what I see as far as children of color in general going through the public school system, not truly learning about who they are and the greatness that has come with them, and being fed a narrative of lesser than, minority, slave, like, just all
Right.
the things that, oh, you at the bottom, that's where y'all been, get comfortable there, and the learned helplessness that comes with that. And that's what
Right.
I feel homeschool combats. I feel like homeschool balance offers that balance that kids need, like when they're coming up against all that lovely
Mhm.
narrative that is, I mean, it's through from kindergarten on up.
Yeah.
So that's a
I'm with
lot of
you.
years of hearing, oh, you're a minority, oh, you're lesser than, oh, you was
Mhm.
our slaves. Like, that's a lot of that's a lot of
A lot of
time.
negative messages over a lot of years. It's that programming is hard to overcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And so that's why the factor of homeschooling is so near and dear to me, because I feel like it is something that should be taking place no matter the children's classroom setting, or where they are as far as traditional school goes or not. So
Right.
I appreciate what you're doing, and using your voice, not only just your pen, but also your voice, and making sure that parents are aware of their role that they're playing. So what are you teaching at ODU?
So my area of study is science education. I'm a
Okay.
science educator, and I teach teachers. Those are primary students I teach. Both pre-service teachers, who are teachers who, well, I say future teachers. They're not teaching yet. They're working to get licensed. And then in-service teachers, which would be teachers who are currently practicing, and they sometimes come back for advanced degrees, or sometimes they're teaching but don't have certification yet in a given area, so they'll come back for certification.
Okay.
I also will teach doctoral students who are themselves learning to do research in education.
Yes, because you were speaking early on about you wanted to be able to get the research that you were doing in front of Black kids.
Yeah,
What's that research as far as the science goes?
yeah. So now, so teaching is one part of my work as a professor. The other part is to do research. And as science educators, generally, we study the teaching and learning of science. My specific area is looking at, um, it began looking at what type of experiences shaped or influenced Black students' movement towards science careers.
Mm,
Um, but over time, that's changed based on developments in the field, things I was learning in my own research. Um, and I began to move away from it in part because very, very few human beings become scientists. And so what I was noticing is that we were spending, as a community of science educators, our whole curriculum is largely designed for future scientists. This goes back to Sputnik. So Russia is about to launch a spaceship, and the U.S. want to compete. We're gonna launch a spaceship. So we changed the whole science curriculum. We're gonna produce scientists. Everybody, right?
Right.
And so the whole of our science curriculum is designed to produce scientists. That's why we learn stuff that nobody needs to know in our science classes. I mean, who needs to know the formula for photosynthesis or the Krebs
Mm.
cycle? You will never see the Krebs cycle not one day in your life. But every day in your life, you got to figure out what am I going to eat today that's going to be good for me. We don't learn none of that in our science classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so for me, I started thinking, okay, I want to be of service to Black people. What is the use of only focusing on the fewer than 0.5% that's going to go on to become scientists?
Mm.
What about the rest of us? And so where I began to shift then was asking myself, okay, what does science education need to look like in order for Black people to improve our social condition, the way we live in the world? And
Yes.
that includes how we eat, what cosmetics we use, the impact of technology.
Yes.
How should we engage with that
Yes.
technology? If somebody comes out with a new product, should we adopt that product or should we stay away from that product? Is it good for us or not good for us? These are the types of questions we need to be able to ask. And for me, the question is, how does our curriculum support us in being able to answer those questions?
Mm.
And so there's a model I developed. We just call it the 5 C's, or socially transformative STEM curriculum. Um, I didn't invent the elements of the model. I just took elements that other researchers had identified and brought them
Put it
together,
together.
right? And then applied it to science education. It hadn't been applied to science. These are generalists, curriculum theorists. And so since that initial paper, which was maybe 2011, I believe, I've worked with colleagues to provide examples. Okay, this is what it might look like in mathematics. This is an example of this model, looking at a lesson on molecules and atoms, and elements, excuse me, compounds, elements, atoms, and compounds. Um, and so the books also grew out of this. I'm just looking for ways to say, look, here are the 5 things, 5 areas of mastery that our students should have. It doesn't really require a wholesale overturning of what we do, but it does require a shift in priorities for what we do academically. And now that's really the core of my research is taking this model and looking at what happens when learners interact with this model.
Mm.
What are some ways that we can restructure existing curriculum to fit this model?
Yes.
One study we're working on now, we're just in the very early developmental phases, is looking at using diabetes as an area of study. Okay, so diabetes is an epidemic in the Black community and in the larger world community. How has our understanding of science through our science classes helped us to be able to navigate the diabetes diagnosis? Where do we go for information? How do we weigh information? So our study is it's exploratory. We just want to see somebody's been diagnosed with diabetes. Where do they draw on their science learning to help them to better navigate this new condition that they have to live with?
But where do they draw from? Because like you said, the things that are being taught through those 13 years in traditional school aren't equipping individuals with that like
Right,
research or that knowledge to be able to dissect their diagnosis.
right.
I have a friend now who's dealing with stage 4 cancer. Or he
Mm,
it's my friend's partner. He's dealing with it, but my friend is the female. But either way, we talk. Me and her talk about his processing of being diagnosed with that. He's 28 years old. This is a
mhm.
28-year-old Black male who's being
Yeah,
diagnosed with renal, I think renal cell. It's like I have it in my phone because I don't know it off top. But like,
yeah.
but I even like, with his diagnosis, I wanted to do more research. And me and her talk because it doesn't click for him that way. It's not a
Mhm,
process of I should learn more about what I've been diagnosed with and try to
mhm.
make sure that I'm combating whatever it is that I've been diagnosed with the knowledge that I'm receiving from my research into it.
Right.
it's her that's doing the research and him asking the questions from her. So it's like,
Okay.
we're talking about that too. Like, being diagnosed with something, why are we, as people in general, it's not a Black thing, but people in general, not doing the research in regards to whatever it is that we've been diagnosed with. And we're just taking that diagnosis and then depending on experts to tell us what's next. Like, okay, I got this, what I need to do. Tell me.
Yeah.
Like, so what you're saying is really hitting, because we need those skills. Like, we need to be able to process this information in a different way.
Yeah.
People laugh and joke when I talk about my issue with sugar and how I compare sugar to crack, basically. And then I talk about, I'm just saying, I
Say it
do.
ain't so.
And I just say, like, and every time, like, I've been on a journey to detox from sugar for the longest, but it's like something that it's an issue, and people aren't seeing it as that. But you watch the documentaries, you see the research done. Scientists compare white sugar, to cocaine. Like, they're always putting that brain up, and they're showing you what white sugar is doing to you compared to what cocaine is doing to your brain. So when I say it, like, people are always like, "Oh, girl, you're so silly," and I'm like, "No, but I'm serious. Like, this is a problem."
It's a big problem.
So it's just the processing of this knowledge. And like you have said many times over, that the information that we're receiving, or that's being focused on in science curriculums, is not a beneficial curriculum for our health and longevity wise. So I'm just, like I said, I'm thankful. Like, you're putting this information in children's books, because children need to, like, if I don't focus on anything else, reading is one, and then our bodies is the second. Because I'm learning things with teaching my girls about their body that I didn't know myself, and I'm about to be 40. So understanding that, like, I want them to be able to say, oh, okay, I feel this way. I feel like, oh, listening to my body, I think I may need this or I may need that. And because this is what my body is saying. Like, I know when I'm craving potatoes, I'm like, okay, well, Dad, have I drank enough water today? Because I also know that that's an association. Like, potatoes is something else associated with dehydration. So I always think about, okay, well, how much water have I drank? Because, or if I'm craving, I don't eat meat anymore, but before, when I used to crave spaghetti or I used to want a burger, it's like, okay, is my iron low? Is it something going on? Like, I'm always thinking about that, because I feel like there is an association with cravings, and your body is letting you know what you're lacking.
What you need.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's just, I want that to be something that they can listen and tune into with themselves too. It's just, I've loved this conversation.
Good.
I have. And I thank you for the work that you are doing, the research studies that you are doing to change the narrative, in sense, of what's important for our people to be learning, for people to be learning. So thank you. Where do we find Black Kids Read?
Okay. So the best place to go will be to the website. And I'm gonna read it. Okay, so it's https:// Y'all know that. blackkidsread.org.
Okay.
Black, BLACK, kids, KIDS, read, READ.org.
And it'll also be in the description too. So
yes, all one word. And if anyone is interested, you can also find information on my research lab website, and that is www.es2rp. The letter E, the letter S, the number 2, the letter R, the letter P. es2rp.org.
nice. Okay, and that they'll be able to see your results from the research that you're doing.
So on our research lab website, there will be there are announcements of events that we've been engaged in recently, and this is more on the research side of things. Um, but so if I take students to a conference and we give presentations, that goes on the website. If we have a new publication, that's on the website. And then there's a list of papers that we've published. And I mean, a lot of folks, we're not trying to read no academic articles. Some academics not trying to read academic articles.
Say it again. Yes.
But if you're interested, they're listed there as well. A lot of times, what I'll try to do with our academic articles is create some version of the article that I think might be more interested to a non-academic. So I have an artist who will often do editorial cartoons.
Nice.
You see behind me on the wall,
Yes. Those are
those
all
are all
toy
editorial
cartoons.
cartoons.
Okay.
Each one goes with a different article, right?
Nice.
And so it's just a nice way of capturing a core idea from an article. So when we list the articles underneath it, there'll be other tags. So there might be an editorial cartoon. There might be a research brief, which would be like a short, page or two summary. There might be an infographic, which is another way of capturing the idea. And so we just try to find ways to make it accessible. Sometimes I'll have an opportunity to do a video presentation. A couple of them, we have short video presentations, like 4 or 5 minutes, which just gives a summary of a study. And so it may be of interest to people who just want to learn more about our research.
Indeed, indeed. I definitely would love to take a peek. I like things like that.
Okay.
I I do. Nice.
Now, one other thing I'll share. I don't know how much more time we
Oh
have.
no, you good. Go ahead.
Okay. So the most recent book that we have out, and when I say recent, I mean it's like now. So it's scheduled to release in May. We did a Kickstarter for it the Kickstarter ended at the start of the year, January 1st. And so the early release books should be out within the next few days. I mean, literally next before the end of this week, the early release
Okay.
version will be out. And then the official sales will begin May 1st. The book it's my first novel. It's a middle grade novel. It's about 300 pages. Um, you can find it on the website if you go to, okay, it's called Secrets of the Vanguard Order.
Oh
So if
wow.
you do a search, Secrets of the Vanguard Order, it'll take you to the landing page. And basically, this book tells a story of a 13-year-old boy who has a strained relationship with his father. His father sends him away to a camp, and the boy didn't want to go to the camp. He wanted to do other things with his summer. Um, but when he's at the camp, he stumbles into some technology by the group that runs the camp. And as the story is told, he ends up being transported to another planet, he with some of his friends. And they've got to figure out how to get back to Earth, drawing from some of the things they learned in the camp.
Nice.
I'm not sure if your readers or listeners, excuse me, are familiar with Malimu Baruti in Atlanta or Push, the Black Unifier in DC, but they are two people who have read and written reviews on the book.
Nice.
And so I'm excited for this one to be out. It covers a lot of interesting science topics, and it's I kind of it is a coming of age story.
Mhm.
And so for young people, it touches on some themes that we go through, especially as males in our preteen years. And I think that the older men who read it liked it. So I'm
Nice.
quite sure the younger men will enjoy it as well because
Nice.
a woman can read it and enjoy it, but it's about a young man interacting with other men. So I think that it's something that young boys and men will enjoy.
Indeed. And we like that knowledge too. So we
Right.
like to know about y'all.
Hey,
We
we like
still
men.
trying to figure y'all out. Yes, we're trying to figure y'all out. I love the cover and everything looks really exciting. Is it going to be a series? Because it sounds like something I can go on.
Yeah, so the plan is for it to be a series. I've
Okay.
only written the one so far, and I've started pulling notes together to outline the second one. Um, and I usually do my writing near the end of the year. And so we'll see how much I can get written at the end of this year.
Nice. Well, thank you. Awesome. Just keeps getting better. Afrofuturistic novels. Okay. I love it. Okay. I'm
Great,
so
great, great.
excited. I'm so excited for all that you have going and are sharing and creating new narratives. Like you really are.
Yeah, and Jay, when I see you, maybe not by the 5th. I don't know if I have the print copy that soon, but definitely by the 25th, I'll have some so that you can see at the in Maryland, at the conference in
Nice.
Maryland.
Okay, cool. I'm excited. I'm gonna buy a book. Believe me. Like I
Okay.
tell people, if I don't buy anything else, if I go in the bookstore, books are bought. Okay,
Right.
books are bought. They
Books will be
are.
bought.
Yes, yes, yes. My girls are really into graphic novels right now, and they trying to break me with that. But
Okay.
she's reading. What is she reading? Super duper super. It's a black superhero book. It's really cute. I can't think of the
Okay.
title right now, but that's what she's reading now, and I'm proud of her because it's not a graphic novel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's and she's making it a point to make me like I'm reading this book again, like
Right.
because that is what she's into right now as far the graphic novels go. So this
Okay.
is dope for her, and I'm very
Okay.
happy and proud of her. But yes, before I let you go, three things that you would like to share with parents, in regards to raising readers, in regards to science, that needs to be focused on, just whatever your passion is. Just three things you would like to share and leave, little tidbits with parents.
Yeah. I've already shared a few things that I deem as important, but I have so much because a lot of my work is with parents directly.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I'll share is just a word of encouragement. Um, and this is going to sound facetious, but I really mean it. I want to encourage Black parents to, on one hand, not stress too much about the end product that is our children. I'm gonna share a personal story, and this is not coming from the pulpit. This is coming from the confessional. Okay.
Yes.
Um, my older son, he went through a period of time where he was struggling with his math, and we went through about a 3 4 week period of just at each other like you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, and he's like, I'm doing it well enough, without saying leave me alone. He was saying leave me alone. And
Respectfully.
near the end of that 4 week period, stopped, and I just asked myself, say the worst happens and he never becomes excellent at math. Say that happens. What's wrong with that?
Mm.
I said, is it worth losing your relationship with your son, trying to
Message.
make him be, the greatest mathematician ever exists? And the answer was no. And so I pulled back a little bit and
Nice.
I focused my attention on enjoying my time with him as his father. Okay, now I'm not saying that math is his best subject. I don't think it is, but he's very competent mathematically. He has a very good business. He's in grad school now, studying business.
Nice.
He just collected data on a study, doing statistical analysis. So he got enough competence in math to navigate
Exactly.
that space. And we didn't lose a relationship.
Nice.
And so the first thing I would share is just that word of encouragement, that children can survive their parents, and they do have within them the capacity to figure things out. So we don't have to be perfect to be good parents. As long as we don't mess them up, we got to protect them from, as we talked about, the pedophiles and from irreparable harm. We protect them from that. But beyond that, I think our job is to give them good experiences, to nurture them, to love them, and to enjoy living life with them.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first thing I would share.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Um, the second, I talked about the protective factors, but I would reemphasize that as a second factor, especially a second thing, especially for Black children. Um, even when parents, okay, so I read a lot of Black history, and I put myself in spaces where I learn about sociology and culture and politics from a Black perspective. Even if you don't do any of that, you can learn with your children. So you heard a name. Well, we all heard of Martin Luther King. Hey, son, daughter, let's pick up this book that Martin Luther King wrote and read it. Or let's read this book about Martin Luther King together. Or if you don't want to read, heaven forbid, but if you don't want to read,
Right.
let's look at a documentary. Look for Me in a Whirlwind by Marcus Garvey. But take
Mhm.
time on a regular basis to be curious about, look at, and learn with your children. It will give them a tremendous, tremendous advantage in life without us running their head into a wall to try to do something that the
Right.
school wants them to do. All right. So those protective factors and as part of that learning in concert with children. And then the last thing I'll give is that this is a trick. I think it works better with younger children. It might be okay with older children that you're just not going to see it. And that is if you want your child to love or enjoy doing something, all you have to do is do it with them. They don't love the activity in and of itself, especially when they're young. You go to a kid and say, "Hey, you want to cut the grass with daddy?" They're gonna say, "Yeah." They don't care nothing about cutting the grass. They care about daddy.
Yes. Yes.
All right, and so that's why I'm a real big proponent of family reading. Sit the child on your lap and read together. They're going to become readers not because they love reading, but because they love that time with daddy.
Mhm.
When they start moving away from being under the tutelage of mommy and daddy, they have left those activities that you all did together. And so that applies across the board. If you want them to cook, just take time, cook, say, come on, we're gonna bake this cake together. Cook with them. And if you want them to be somebody who no adult want to deal with, ignore your children. Because then
Right.
they're gonna find stuff to do and there's no connection for them in doing those activities.
You are absolutely correct, sir. Absolutely correct. I love this. I thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all the jewels. Thank you for all the perspective of this thinking different and understanding like it's okay to think outside of the box in regards to what your curriculum needs to look like for your children, what roles you need to play in your children, or not even stressing the academics, but remembering the relationship with your children. It all goes hand in hand. And I appreciate you for this. I
And
do.
thank you, Jay. Keep
Thank
keep doing the work you're doing because we need this platform and platforms like this.
Thank you. Thank you so
We
much.
absolutely need it.
I'm enjoying and y'all make me feel great because I know the work is being done. I know that you hear and you talk to people and they're always like focusing on like all the trials and tribulations that we see out here. But it's like, no, the solutions are here. Believe me. I talk to them
Mhm.
all the time. So I understand people putting in
Yeah.
that work and I
I mean,
appreciate y'all for that.
you're connecting folks to each other and you're connecting folks to a task that, I mean, the numbers of Black families who are turning to homeschooling is growing exponentially.
Yes.
And
Yes,
so
it
with that, we have questions.
is.
Where are
Indeed.
our resources? What should we do? And you're connecting those people with each other and with with answers to those questions. So it's
Yes.
invaluable. Even when folks don't come say thank you, know that they are feeling thank you. And I want to just say thank you so that you get
Oh,
it.
thank you. Oh yeah, no, I feel it. I feel the gratitude always, especially at the expo. So I have
Okay.
no doubt that I'm walking in my light. I do know that.
Excellent.
And so I'm
Excellent.
confidently walking in it. And I appreciate everyone else too, just as much as they appreciate me. So know that y'all are amazing to me. Each and every person I get to talk to, and know that, oh, okay, you saw a problem and you was like, oh, I'm gonna do something about it. I love that. Okay.
Right.
I love that. So thank you. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Parents, another resource. Remember, this isn't a journey you have to do on your own, but it is a journey that you always need to be in charge of as far as being the leader of. Your children's educational journey is yours to lead. So don't pass that baton off in any way, no matter where the school setting is, if it's traditional, untraditional, whatever the case may be, your children will always look at you as being their first and most qualified guide in life. So take that crown and wear it proudly and just homeschool your kids.